Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Podling Shark Tank, the most exciting talk of the day, as you can see. I'm your host, but I'm a very lazy host. I don't like talking or hosting or doing much, so most of the work will be done by this fine gentleman on my left and on your right. These are the sharks that will be asking really interesting questions and trying to bite into your project, so be prepared and have a lot of fun. And with that, I will let them introduce themselves. So Craig, starting with you, maybe?
No, why don't you start?
Oh,
too late.
Too late.
Too late. Okay, I'm Craig Russell. I've been with Apache for 14 years only, and recently retired. So my official status here is retired with a side hustle, and this is my side hustle.
Hey, I'm Shane Kukru. I'm on the board of directors, and in approximately 3 weeks, I will have been an Apache committer for 20 years. So next time, let's have the conference a little bit later so I can wear a 20 badge. And in a past life, I was the vice president of brand management for the foundation.
Yeah, my name is Christopher Dutz. Yeah, I'm sort of a 5-6 year sort of member of the foundation, yeah, well, recently pretty involved in the incubator, mentoring a lot of IoT projects. Yeah, sort of my first time to be a shark.
And before I introduce the project itself, let me explain the rules of the game. They're simple. Each contestant gets 10 minutes to talk about their project, and then judges or sharks get 5 minutes to ask really...
I'm going to be a judge too, just not on mine.
At some point? Maybe, I don't know. Will you? Okay, you will. Okay, it's fine. And then we basically get to hear from the next project. The time will be kept pretty strict, so be on time. And if you are not on time, we will try to boot you off the stage. And with that, let me actually introduce Justin, who will be playing double role as a shark and also as Julian.
Hi, I'm Julian. Well, I'm not actually, I'm Justin. Julian can't be here because he's giving another talk about IoTB at the same time as he's supposed to be giving this one. So I have not seen these slides as of 5 minutes ago, so no one has yet. We'll have to plug them in. So hopefully I'll do justice to the project here. So the IoTDB project is fairly new to the incubator, and it's trying to take a slightly different approach than what most projects, IoT-style projects do. Recently, there's been a lot of interest in edge computing, and so you have these boxes that sit at the edge, and they collate data, they look at interesting things that are happening, and then when something interesting happens, they pass that data on. What IoTDB is trying to do is we really don't know what might be interesting and what not be interesting, so we're going to get all that data, we're going to compress it in really interesting ways, and we're going to pass it all on, so you can then query it and do interesting things with it. And this is hard because there is a large amount of data involved. One of the projects that IoTDB has used is a wind farm, and I think there is, I probably have the numbers slightly wrong here, so you have to forgive me, this is off the top of my head. I think there's about 2,500 turbines, and each one of those has up to 100 sensors on it and generates about 2.5 gigabytes of data a day. So we're talking huge amounts of data. And that brings in its own problems in terms of how you transport it, how you save it. And there are most projects along these lines, the data is very simple. It's just sensors and time. So they use time series databases, such as Apache Cassandra here. And then they'll use something like Spark to do analysis on it. But there are some limitations to the existing time series databases that I'm just going to, which comes with this. So a lot of the sensors send out data really, really quickly. Some of them don't. Sometimes you only need to know something in an hour. Sometimes you only need it hundreds of times a second. Data often arrives out of time, or you just miss big blocks of data altogether. And so the problem that IODB is trying to solve is what happens if we get half the data out of time and half the data is missing? Can we still get meaningful results out of it? And that's what it's trying to do. I'm not going to go into that detail. So, the performance of IoTDB is quite high. We're talking millions of points per second per node and tens of millions of time series data. It has some nice, interesting features, including integration with a whole lot of other things, of course. But it also has some nice SQL features in there, like you can say, show me what happened between this time and this time where the data looks like this shape. And you can actually do things like that, which is in real time, which is quite good. The compression that it uses is a whole lot of different types of compression, all the way from simple runtime length encoding to more complex things like gorilla encoding, if anyone has heard of that, to actually a couple of very new types of compression that have only just come out of a couple of Chinese universities and have patents on them. And you can see that compared to a few other databases, that the data can be compressed extremely well. So also in terms of performance, in this case that was, I think that's 77 million points per second on a single node. So again, huge amounts of data.
It's big.
It's big. You can also use JDBC to query the data. It has a whole lot of other interfaces as well, and basically it will run everywhere. So you can run it on little tiny IoT devices up to mid-sized devices up to big data centers. So you can make it fit in wherever you want, basically in your thing. And I haven't seen these slides. So it integrates with a whole lot of other Apache and non-Apache projects as well. So it's quite easy to get data in and out of it, into it through Kafka or MQTT, for example, and out of it into Grafana or MATLAB with small data sets, so that can't deal with very large data sets. Or if you have huge amounts of data, you probably want to use something like Spark to get at the data there. That was when I was talking about saying, can we do a SQL query to look like a pattern. So this is actually showing, I think it's a spike in a wind turbine farm in terms of the speed of the blades, and they're sort of events that put a lot of wear and tear on the turbines. And you want to, recognize when those happen, so you know when to send out preventive maintenance. So this can detect things like wear and tear, to detect outliers, but because you've got access to all the information, you can look for quite a lot of things rather than just what you thought might have been important and just sent that on. Am I out of time yet?
Well, you're out of slides.
Thank you.
All right, so that was IoTDB. Now back to the sharks.
You're still up on stage as an IoTDB person. You're not a shark yet. Okay, so yes, as a technologist, I'm sold on this is a cool thing.
I did tell the Podlings when they submitted their things to include stuff about the community in there. They did not.
So you didn't talk to me about the project, and what we want to hear about is how is the project working? How does the Apache Way fitting with the community? And that is a critical part of what I would ask about here. So I don't really have any other questions except one. Mm-hmm. So earlier you said compression is a big part of this, mm-hmm. and some of this new technologies, neat new stuff, which is patented by these Chinese universities. Yep. Have they thought through the fact that they're now granting that patent to us? Is there going to be an issue with?
There is not going to be an issue with that. They have thought about that, and in fact, there's even some notes in the notice file about it.
So that when I use it, I can use that compression
Correct.
Without having to worry about the patent.
Correct.
Okay, if that's true, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you integrate with a number of other Apache projects.
Mm-hmm.
How many committers do you have from those other projects on this project?
I would say none.
Do you see that as an issue?
Yes. Yeah, no, it is an issue. The project has come from I guess a single community, and they're still struggling in growing outside of that. So I don't think we've added any new committers yet. Oh, Julian, yes, sorry, there was one. Yeah, who's supposed to be giving this talk?
Do you see the Shark Tank as being able to help?
I think the Shark Tank can help by pointing out some obvious things that we should be doing that we're not, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you mentioned that sort of the project originates from a sort of very local community. So having gone through incubation myself, I know how difficult it can be to sort of just skip taking things to the list. So how's the project performing with discussing things on the list?
When the project first started out, it had a very hard time making sure that discussions were on list. And even now, if you look at the traffic that is actually on list and what happens in, say, GitHub, it's hugely different. So there's a lot that we could improve there. And I think in some cases, the people are having off-list conversations. If you're working with someone and you're sitting right next to them, it's very easy just to turn to them and say, oh, hi, how do you have a look at this? Could you fix it? You're probably not going to send them an email to the list. But things are slowly improving, so I think this is only early stages as a project, and it will get better before they graduate.
Yeah, that was my follow-on question is, so the other perspective to get from the Podling is, where do you think you are in the incubation process? Is it sort of just getting started? Is it building the community and working on a release cadence, or getting close?
Just on the building community side of things. So we've just got past the getting started bit. We actually have a couple of releases out, but we have to do more on the community building side before we would even consider graduating.
Yeah, so from me seeing what we have here and hearing the discussion, the important part is I think that's the right perspective. Right? If we have a podling that says, oh, we're totally ready to graduate, and the sharks aren't biting, then that's not a good thing. But here, I think we get it. It's a process, working on it. I'm looking forward to it in the future.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anything that sort of we Sharks or the Apache Software Foundation can help with to get them sort of more into the Apache way?
I'll have to think about that. I don't know. I'm sorry. Nothing springs to mind. Yeah, no.
Actually, I do have a quick question. Yeah. Have you -1 the release yet?
Yes, I have.
Good. Now I'm happy. All right, thank you so much, Justin. Now you can magically turn back into a shark. You can actually introduce yourself now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Justin McLean. I'm a mentor for many Apache projects, and I'm currently the VP of the Apache Incubator. So if there are any people who are on Podlings out here, I've probably voted on your release, and you may have got a -1 from me.
All right, so let's invite our next speaker, who will be talking about the Apache project called DLab. So welcome on stage. And the time starts now.
Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be on the stage. First time on the stage like that. I'm going to present a Podling called DLab. We've been building it for quite a while with a company called EPAM System, and we recently decided we are really going to open source this. So now everything comes to the cloud. The data is moving from on-premises to the cloud, and there are a lot of bits that needs to be connected from what we think. So when the data gets ingested to the cloud, it's really a pain for developers, for data scientists who do the modeling, who do machine learning, deep learning, to actually get their hands dirty working with this data, because they don't have access to the data. The access is literally governed by different departments, organizational units, and it's in the world of GDPR, PII and PHI data, it's always a pain. Also, being able to work with the data effectively in the sense that you can leverage the cloud storage, cloud computational resources. You need to have the tools to work with, and you don't want to interact with IT, with DevOps, and IT department because you want to get as much fast insights of the data as possible. So we have thought about what are the real problems that we would like to deal with in order to build this DLab tool. So 4 of them, the access to the data, as I mentioned, the data is governed. We wanted to solve this problem by means of enabling the storages and securing the storages and sharing the storages within the projects that work in DLab. Also, we would like really data scientists to focus on the work they really need to do, on building the code and building the models rather than on provisioning the infrastructure, filling the Jira tickets for IT support to open some ports for them to be able to work effectively. And it's also the problem with the tools when it's really a pain for data scientists and developers to install the tools. They don't have DevOps skills and security skills. And it's also about the latest and greatest tools that are open sourced. It's always a challenge to put them to, let's say, enterprise clouds because there should be some security hardening applied on top of those. And we also thought, yes, that's a big pain. We need to deal with this somehow. And of course, when it comes to the data scientists tend to copy data to their local machines. That's the fact. They don't want to use cloud. They copy the data because they get used to it. So we thought about, okay, what we do with it. We thought about building a tool that would address all these problems would be great. So that should be like a self-service tool for data scientists where they can quickly, using like single click of the mouse, spin up analytical environments, install libraries and dependencies on those environments, leverage the computational resources of the cloud as well as the storage. We should enable the collaboration within and between the teams as well, because it's not only the sandbox, it's not only the silo of one single person. And we should be able to get this thing deployed on multiple clouds like Azure, AWS, and GCP. That was our goal. What we've built, what we are building right now, is a tool called DLab. We basically enable data scientists to do the things I've been talking previously about. We can create the projects within DLab. The single project can be deploying resources on 3 clouds at the same time. It can be a project working on Azure, AWS, and GCP. You can imagine that some data source resides on AWS environment. You would like to do some data transformation, data analysis, put the results of this analysis on another cloud, let's say on Azure, and then potentially also deploy the results of your work to GCP. So that's what DLab enables as well. We're currently thinking about CI/CD for model productionalizing, not just creating a model, but the ability to deploy the model to the scalable Kubernetes cluster and exposing the API for third-party services. That's in our roadmap. So what we've built so far, we have a tool that works on 3 clouds. Of course, it all starts with authentication and authorization. So we have the ability to authorize users against Active Directory, cloud identity and access management systems, and recently we've added support for simultaneous single sign-on experience using Keycloak. The access to the environments is secured, as I mentioned. So we have the ability to encrypt the data. We basically start with uploading our private key, and this encrypts the data at rest. This also secures the identity control. And the access to these exploratory environments, which I'm going to talk a little bit later, is also secured. So you can only access your environment. If you want to share it with anyone else, you should use the collaboration capabilities of the tool itself. So it has pretty easy to use web interface. It has integration with tools like Jupyter, Apache Zeppelin, or Studio. It has also built-in templates for Jupyter plus TensorFlow and deep learning and RStudio and TensorFlow. It has a lot of built-in how-to pages, I would say. So these are like wiki pages that are actually guiding users and telling them how to use the tool. We really try to put as much documentation as possible into Git repository as well as into the tool so users can get acquainted with it pretty easily. And we also were thinking about the lifecycle management of the resources that we create on the cloud, because it all ends up with the costs being associated behind these resources. So we have the ability to, of course, start, stop, and terminate our notebooks and our clusters. We can add computational resources on demand, as well as we can use the scheduler that will spin up resources for you on periodic basis based on some recurrence patterns or based on the idle time. For instance, if your cluster sits idle for more than 2 hours, it just gets stopped or terminated. We have also enriched some capabilities for data scientists in terms of managing the libraries, because data science world and developers as well, they need to work with dependencies, frameworks, and libraries, and sometimes it's really a pain installing them when it comes to remote clustered environments. So we have the ability built into the tool, so you just specify the resource you would like specific library to get installed on, and you do it through web interface. We tried also not to limit data scientists, well, whoever is using the tool, basically. This can be data scientists, data engineers. We tried not to limit them in terms of programming languages. So we have embedded support of Python, Scala, R. We recently added, Java, added recently. We have all this plugged into the tool. It's working in the sense that you're just selecting the kernels or interpreters in the tools like Jupyter, Zeppelin, RStudio, and you just write your code. If you want to plug in the computational resources, we have the ability to use cloud services like EMR for AWS, HD Insight on Azure, Dataproc on GCP, as well as Apache standalone cluster. The benefit, of course, behind Apache standalone is you can just stop it, not just terminate and recreate from scratch as you need to do with the cloud service managed services. So we also had added the ability for data teams to collaborate. By saying this, I mean that when the users spin up analytical tools for themselves, they have automatically being assigned a bucket on one of the clouds. This bucket, they only have access to write to, these are only the users who are logged in who can write into the bucket. But if, for instance, you have created a model, you have created a data set which you would like now to share with anyone else, we create also the shared buckets. We assign specific security groups and policies for these buckets, thus enabling all users who have access to DLab to read and write data out and from this bucket. We also added collaboration capabilities, not in the sense that it's just the storage, but also the way how they collaborate. So we've added support of a tool called ungit. So it's basically a web interface of top of Git or Bitbucket or whatever. So for those who are not probably familiar with CLI, this will be pretty handy. Also, we have a web terminal built into each and every notebook and virtual machine that we spin up, such that users who like to get their hands dirty with the CLI command line interface, that's all about it. And last but not least, so when it comes to cloud, it's pretty important to control the costs and the usage of the resources. So we have integration with all these 3 cloud providers in terms of billing. We do have the billing report built into DLab, and we also have the administrative privileges that users with admin privileges can set the quotas for specific cloud, specific projects, specific users, saying you cannot use more than $500 when you are running this project in DLab. And by saying this, you are pretty much sure that you will not blow up the cost of your infrastructure. Once the quota is about to be depleted, notifications are sent to the end user saying you need to reach out to your administrator, and he needs to increase this quota. And probably one of the last key features that we have right now is the administrative interface. So you have the ability to manage someone else's environment, not only the one you're using. So you can assign users to the projects. You can assign specific privileges for users to do specific roles on these projects, like using only Zeppelin notebooks or only Jupyter to use like CPU-optimized instance shapes for their analytics, or GPU-optimized ones. You can assign roles like, okay, you can now work with the clusters and you can spin up the clusters of more than 10 nodes or not. So this is something that administrator can do. And last but not least, administrators can also manage someone else's environment, in a sense that if someone just left for vacation and left the 100-node cluster running, that guy can just literally go and stop or terminate those machines. That's pretty much everything from my presentation. Thank you.
And that is impressively on time. Thank you so much. So now back to you, Sharks.
Test? Yeah, okay. So you said, I think the project came from a company? So how is sort of the community developing sort of regarding, let's say, getting in people from outside your company?
Yeah, that's a very good point, and probably that's the biggest issue we're facing right now. We're now at the phase of basically building the community. I would say we made already a couple of releases, and we have around 28 committers. 20 out of them are from our company, because people, whenever they are not assigned to a specific project, they always like raise their hand and they try to collaborate. But when it comes to building the community, just 2019 that we started actively like marketizing ourselves, not just within the clients that our company have, but on the conferences, writing some articles. We have 3 on our pipeline that I have put together, like 2 of them, not yet published, but will do. Conferences, so this is the 3rd conference this year. A friend of mine in US also visited one conference in Fila, and we are about to do the same. It's really difficult for us to gain much contribution, but I think the project itself is kind of cool, and we will definitely be marketizing ourselves better and doing it more and more and more.
I'm wearing my incubator hat at the moment. Do you think you're getting enough help from your mentors?
Yeah, we've been struggling a while with just with the rules that are present in Apache. It's kind of different from what we were used to. Now we're all aligned with that. We do understand that, yeah, we need to like listen to our mentors in the sense that whatever they are saying is true, basically, because sometimes it was like we've been writing emails and there was 0 response, then we kind of understood, yeah, people are busy, right? And we started reading the wiki pages. We started reading how other people on the Podlings do the same. But basically answering your questions, yes, the mentors are pretty helpful. Right now we have 2 mentors assigned to our project, and they're doing a fantastic job, I would say. So every time we ask something, we got the response in a matter of like 2-3 days at most.
Yeah, so my first question is the really, really simple one. Where's your website?
Website?
So I couldn't find one on the Apache. I see one on the corporate side, which still talks about DLab as a corporate project. So that's what I see, is you're still a corporate project. So the real simple thing, but like that's a key part of
so the
working on the community.
Problem is, to be honest, that the name of the project is a little bit conflicting right now with the Berkeley's DLab something. So there is the organization in US running some labs, and for some reason, well, the name is conflicting, basically. We'll be changing the name. That's why the domain name is also essential. And we were thinking, let's not switch from like EPAM corporate website to something new until we finalize
I guess then
the name.
Then the point is, even today, you need to change the corporate website to say, hey, we're an Apache project. Because right now, reading the corporate one, I just did that earlier today. I would never have thought of this as an Apache thing. And the only other one is, sounds like neat stuff. And if you're really trying to make it easy for the data scientists, the one key thing, which is going to be a little bit harder at Apache, is user experience expertise. Right? If you really want to make it easy for the data scientists to actually get all this stuff and then run it through pipelines, it's as developers, we often don't think about the end user who's not technical, and that's going to be really nice to have. And that's a great place to encourage new contributions. There are UX experts out there who are looking for places, and being really welcoming to them is a good place to pick up new community members. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
So your data scientists, do they have the ability to take data from the cloud, massage it a little bit, and put it onto their own computers for data analysis?
Well, I think technically they can, but that's of course the violation of whatever company policies and the projects we're working on. So the answer should be no. But the problem is that the real life says, yes, users tend to do this. But we try to play with DLab within the company. We installed it already on multiple projects, I would say, and we would like our data scientists to get their hands dirty on it and provide their feedback about the tool for us, because that's really important to have this feedback, right? If no one is using the tool, it's really difficult to basically build something. But no, our data scientists are not copying the data from the clouds to their local machines, of course not.
But it's a capability you're looking at, or
no? That's something we try to prevent. Actually,
try to prevent.
Yeah, we try to prevent. We try to provide the tool set for them to avoid cases like that. Because if you copy private data from private cloud of your client to your local machine. That's the violation of all security policies, and that's exactly the problem that we are trying to overcome with this tool.
So the alternative is you need to provide all the tools that they could possibly want in the cloud.
Yeah, we just want them to have an infrastructure, an environment where they can safely work with the data, they can use computational resources, they can install whatever libraries and frameworks they want, and this would mean they don't need to do this, like copying to the local machines, spinning up and buying new laptops because they're running out of their computational resources because the laptop is kind of old and things like that.
And just really quickly, so you're having your data scientists at your company beta testing this for you. So the other point is bring their comments back to the list so that everybody else can see that, so that we can see it, so other people might say, hey, I'm a data scientist just like that person. I know them. I'm excited about this. Cool. Right? Surface that back, not just internally.
Cool. Thank you.
Great suggestion.
Great suggestion there. One other thing, just very shortly. I noticed the project has had a lot of trouble getting board reports in on time. Do you think that's going to improve in the future?
Yeah, I think so. We're trying to improve ourselves whatever we can. So that's one of the points for sure.
Do you know why this is happening? Is it that the
lab, what it stands for? It's like a data lab.
Yeah, no. Do you know why the board reports are haven't been submitted on time quite a few times?
Well, to be honest, I don't want to blame anyone. My reports are sent on the monthly basis. They were sent on the monthly basis for the first quarter or two. For some reason, the reports were not submitted and not reviewed by the mentors. And then this is when I told we have 2 mentors now. Yeah. I had another guy who is currently reviewing them very aggressively, and they are sent timely. So
good. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for the questions. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. And our final contestant is a bit unusual. They're actually just now going through the motions of submitting a proposal to become an Apache project, an Apache incubating project. So this time we actually get to ask the questions not just about the incubating experience, but the entire experience of how does a project get into the Apache Software Foundation from the moment that somebody has that bright idea to the moment that they actually get accepted into the incubator and start their life there. So take it away.
Hi everyone. It's an honor to be here to present our project. I can thank you very much and give kind of background of this project. And my name is Sean, and I'm from Future Way Technology in Silicon Valley, in California actually. This project actually was started 1.5 years ago inside the company. So like 3 months ago, and inspired by Apache Sprint, and we decided to open source it, and we decided to donate this code to Apache Software Foundation. So the name is, we call it Blue Marlin. So the question is, what is Blue Marlin? So by the way, this code, part of the code has been pushed to the production, and it's running in the production environment. We serve 5 billion impressions every day. So it's a very big system. So what is the Blue Marlin? So Blue Marlin tried to answer one question, which is that we know advertising is one of the major business model in internet. And within internet advertising, there are 2 kind of ads type. One is bidding model. So pretty much like every impression, when you get an impression, you decide the price, you decide which ads do you want to show on at a real time. That's one model. It's a Google model, basically. The second model is more like a guarantee model, because a lot of like a big display advertiser, they don't like to bid every impression, because you have like 5 billion impressions. They don't want to bid every time. They just want to book. They say, okay, I'll give you $1 million. you give me like 10 million CPM. That's it. So this is the question we try to answer. To solve this kind of guarantee model, it's not that easy. So our goal is to provide the infrastructure this infrastructure can work with existing ad system to provide inventory management features for all the ad systems. So this is our goal, all right? So basically, we said that it's a cloud platform that adds intelligence to a planned ad system. So by analyzing user data and other data, so we believe that this is fundamental components. And currently, if you look at on the market, big giant like Google, Facebook, Adobe, they all provide this kind of features, but it's not an open source solution. However, if you look at like a small ad system, like OpenX or Reviver, they call it Reviver, they don't have such features. So we believe this is a good opportunity for us because, we already developed for like 1.5 years. We have all the expertise to provide this kind of features. All right, this is pretty much answer what is the blue money. So second things is, what are the major features? So we kind of cover 5 major features. Number one, it's the inventory. How do you forecast the inventory based on historical data? So there are 2 ways to do that. The first one is based on historical data. I can use a statistics model. But that's a traditional model. It has a lot of issues. So what we did here is based on deep learning model. So that's number one. Number 2 is once you have all this inventory data, how do you query it? How do you store the data? How do you query it? Number 3 is you have all this inventory data, but once I want to book, how do you book them, right? So it's kind of like a mass problem. It's like how do you book them? Which way do you book is the most optimal way? Number 4 is kind of campaign performance. So I'll give you one example. How do you do the campaign performance? So which means that I give you $1 million and I want to book, let's say 10,000 CPM inventory. But the point is, I don't know which 10,000 CPM inventory is the best for my $1 million. So everything should be based on this user, based on the feature of this inventory. So there are huge combinations. So we have to run a model to analyze each of the inventory. So based on all the predicted CTR to decide which inventory we can give this to your money. So make sure everyone got the best inventory. The last one is pretty much advertiser spending recommendation. So this is based on the performance forecasting. So the use case is, I give you, I'm an advertiser, I create 5 or I create N campaigns, but I have a fixed budget. I have a $1 million for this 10 campaigns. And how do you schedule my money between these 10 campaigns to make sure that I have the best performance? So those are the 5 questions we want to answer. So some of them has been already pushed out, and some of them we are going to develop. All right, so the code has been pushed to GitHub. I think we have this blue marlin here, and also we have a Twitter account, and we have all the announcement on the Twitter. So now let's give you some kind of system level architecture. So if you look at that, it's pretty much like a workflow. So you have an external data source, and we have an ingestion interface, and we have a log process, basically ingest all the data. As I said, the system can handle 5 billion impressions every day. We already did that part. So after log process, basically we will transform the data from the log format to internal format, which can be used by all the deep learning model. So you have to transform your data and then feed this data into all the different models. So like a inventory forecasting model, you have a performance forecasting model. We have at least 3 deep learning models. Then after that, all the data will be stored in the real-time database engine and the search engine. We use Elasticsearch as our search engine. And then we have an API engine, and external partner can query based on their criteria. So this is more detailed architecture. You can see that it's very detailed. We have Elasticsearch index. We have Spark to process the log. Everything has been done except the orange part. All these models we're going to do, okay? Because currently we are using a statics model instead of deep learning model. All right, cool. So this is about, if you are not familiar with the ad landscape, this is more like on the left side is the demand side, is advertiser. On the right side is the publish. In the middle is the technology platform. And the downside is the data platform. So basically, these components combined together become advertising landscape. So the pink one, which we call the intelligence in advertising, it's the same as a blue marlin, is our module. So you can see that our module basically can work together with DSP, ad network, ad exchange, and SSP. Basically, we provide the API for them, and if they give us data and we provide the API for them, then we can provide this intelligence features to all the existing ad system. So this is pretty much like the basic things. That's pretty much it. I think any question?
So again, I understand you're not at the incubator first, but the first thing is going to be is what is the broader community, right? So when a new proposal is coming to the ASF, what we're really looking at is not necessarily the technology, is do you have the start of a community outside of your company? And in particular, one thing I'm going to ask is, how do you see, as you grow at the incubator, are the big players like Google and other giant ad networks, are they going to play and make integrations, or are they going to try and shut you out, then not letting you in? Because you're going to need to find new developers who can work on not just the models, but also the core engine.
Yes,
and
I think
those kind of people sounds like it's going to be difficult.
Well, let me answer this question. I think this is a very good question. So first of all, we are in the very beginning stage to build our community. So we just started this process. So we have our mentors, we have our campaign as well, and we are going to build that. So that's the first things. Secondly is like how do we deal with Google or Facebook or Adobe? This is quite straightforward. So if you look at that, there are 2 use cases that our system will be used. So number one, it's we call it like a major or large leading mobile device manufacturer. For example, Samsung, for example, Huawei, or other companies. Basically, they have enough traffic. They don't want to use Google service. The reason is very simple, because they don't want their data to be stored or accessed by Google. So they want to keep their data by themselves. All those big companies, they have their own ad network. They either purchase Adobe and install on-premise, or they develop in-house. So in that way, because there is no way you can work with Google, and Google is not going to provide a package software to install on your site. They always ask to say, give me the data. Now, give me the data, I will charge you based on the traffic. So this is, they don't want to do it. So that's why I answer your question. This is not a problem for this open source project at all.
So Just to follow up, so my understanding is the really big players, the Google and the Facebook, they're not going to play with you. But there are plenty of other consumers or producers that are going to want this because they will break them free of the larger players.
Exactly.
And they're going to be incented to provide, and what's important here is not just using your API, but that they're going to provide developers to build your community.
Exactly.
And, okay, so that actually sounds pretty cool.
That's exactly what we want to do because we can see the demand. Because we grew up in our company, so our company can absolutely see this demand. We believe that, instead of developer just used by our company, why don't we just open it? And there are so many companies want to do exactly the same thing, and they basically do not compete each other. For example, A and B, they do not compete each other. The reason is because everything is based on their traffic. So if I have a phone, I have this traffic, there's nothing to do with other phone company, right? So this tool definitely will be shared and used by many companies. It's absolutely a very good opportunity for us.
Yeah, well, so now we understand that the reasons why there is a demand for this project, but what is sort of the reason for you wanting to join the incubator at Apache? So what is...
Well, there are two major reasons for us why we want to join Apache. Number one, we do not have enough developer resource. We have like 10 developers, and 10 contract. We want more people to join us because we think that this is a common problem for many, many companies, right? So if we started, we believe that other company, and we opened up, and we believe other company will join us. That's number one reason. Number two, again, what we try to do here is a deep learning model, and it really depends on the data. So we would like to see that if we can work with other company, if they can give us or contribute some data to us to make this model works even better, because we have just our data. Our data is not good enough. So we went to a cargo and we couldn't find a very good data. So that's why we say we open up. There are two reasons. Number one, we want more developer to join us. Number two, we hope that other company, if they can see the value of this project, they can work with this project and they can contribute some data to this project. So make this model works even better.
And so your company sort of what I'm sort of trying to get is you're sort of giving away something that sort of could be the basis of your company's business. So is this still going to be sort of what your company does, or is this sort of just something you need to do your daily job?
No, I mean the company actually willing. The company wins to do that. The reason is because it's a win-win situation. So even for this company, for example, I open source this project, but I do not have enough engineering resource. I can put only 20 engineers. Now, if other company want to do the same thing, we can have 30 engineers. We have 40, and we can speed up the development. That's number one. Number two, if I have more data, which means my model is much better. It's not just for other companies, for my company as well. It's the same thing. So that's why we realized that this is a perfect case to be an open source project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How much of the data that you need is considered to be proprietary by the companies that own it?
Well, I mean, so our current data, as I said, every day we have 5 billion impressions. That's a huge data. But when we work to build the model, we don't need that large, that huge data set. What we need is a typical pattern of their traffic. So pretty much what we ask them is, if you can contribute like 100,000 log to us, it's pretty much like you can hash all your data. We don't need your sensitive data at all. You hash all the data. We just want to capture or the patterns. That's what we try to capture. For example, you forecasting your inventory, and A company has its traffic pattern, and B company might have a different traffic pattern. And if we just use our company's pattern, we just cover this case. In the future, if we have other pattern, we don't know how to deal with that. So that's why we like to work with other company, work with the community.
And about how many other companies do you expect to be able to attract to this platform?
Well, we contact with several companies, and we got a pretty good feedback, and they definitely want to work with us. And we just push the code outside, and hopefully, we have more people to involve in this project.
I was just going on with what Shane said to an earlier podling. It looks like you've got a lot of Apache projects that you use inside in your architecture.
What?
It looks like you've got a lot of Apache projects that you
That's
use,
right.
like Spark, for example.
Yes, we use the Spark, we use the Elasticsearch.
Yeah. Have you thought of reaching out to those projects to see if they may be interested in contributing?
Contributing
to Blue Marlin.
Oh, yeah. So the current open source we are using are, Elasticsearch and Spark, and definitely I think that's the motivation for us to join Apache Software Foundation as well. I think great. We want to use Apache License 2 as our license model because we want to contribute back. Yeah.
So overall, as somebody who has not actually come to the incubator, this sounds like you're in the right spot. You're doing it for the right reasons.
Yes.
And it's certainly going to be a process because it's still a very single company thing. One thing I just want to clarify is you're attracting these other developers from the unrelated players, which makes perfect sense because they don't compete, but they want this tool.
Yeah,
so they'll
right.
bring you developers. The models you're building, those are also going to be in the Apache project. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So that's the one other it's a small thing in terms of terminology, but when you come to Apache, you're giving us, all of us, the project.
That's right.
So it's making sure you say our project and not meaning our project at the company, but meaning the community's project.
Oh, that's absolutely.
Yeah,
I think, thank you for the clarification. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think this is absolutely our thinking as well. We basically give away this project that we believe this project, if we give it to Apache Software Foundation, will make this project even better.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
It's more of a general comment that I think a lot of companies sort of think about that and they're like, oh, that's great, but they don't really think it through. And it's really only if you're coming at it from the right mindset. Like, this is not competitive for us directly. It would be competitive if we had help. We know there are other people who we think will help with us. Those are the right reasons to come here.
That's right.
That's great.
I think it's like to other companies, it's absolutely a win-win situation. Yeah.
So do you expect to make a commercial product from this offering? And do you have enough of your own secret sauce in order to make it a success?
So far, no. We don't have any commercialized thoughts about this because we believe that internet advertising is a little bit different things. The reason is because you need to have your traffic first. Technology is not that important. As long as you have your own traffic that you can leverage this platform. Right? So basically, you do not compete with each other at all. For example, A company versus a B company, I have my own traffic. I have my own platform. Even I use the same platform like a B does, but it doesn't matter. So we do not compete with each other. We basically, in most of the case, we work together. It's better if we use the same system, and if we can build some kind of proxy on top of that, even better. Yeah.
How will you get revenue from your investment of basically 20-person years of engineering in this project? How do you get the money back?
No, again, as I said, the company will benefit from this open source project anyway. You know, this company has a lot of traffic. They can get like millions dollars from this open source project. So it's like a Spark, right? So I use a Spark. I have a lot of traffic. You know, I can run my business on top of that. That's totally different things. Yeah. Good. Great.
And that's all the time we've got. Thank you so much. So let's thank our speakers, all of them. Thank you, guys. And our awesome judges, our sharks. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We hope to see you at the next ApacheCon. I don't know when or where that will be.
It will be next year.
But I'm sure it will be
Definitely
next year.
next year.
Exactly. So tell your friends, sign up yourself. This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
And just one last bit of thanks. Thank you to Roman for continuing to avoid talking, but nonetheless making a Podling Shark Tank happen each time, which is kind of a nice new tradition. So thank you.